Okay, so the overview of the webinar content for today about the AEM rich text component. We're going to start with a little background, and then I'm going to show you some demonstrations in AEM using the rich text component, show you some differences between the different ways that you can add content to that, and some problems that you might run into, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some accessibility guidelines. Word is a very common tool for managing documents, creating documents, and it's been around for a long time, since, I guess, you know, word processing online, not online, but through a computer started. And while we are talking about Word, because that is the most common, it also applies to any word processing software. Since it is so common and so many people use it, a lot of times people expect to copy and paste content from Word into web pages, and they want it to look the same, but it doesn't. Text on the web works differently than text in a word processor. Basically, text in a word processor is specifically formatted for your eyes, and it also, generally speaking, is intended for printing. So printing out on a piece of paper, which is static, and you know, Chelsea's 8.5 by 11 page is going to look exactly like Janice's, and Mary Beth's is going to look exactly like Teresa's. So, it's static. Now with web, that is formatted and intended for different devices, and especially nowadays, when you've got so many people using phones and tablets, laptops, desktops, all of those monitors, and all of those monitors have different sizes, different like resolution, so the pixels per inch across are different between each device. So no matter what you do, they're not going to look the same at all, but you can do things with HTML formatting that keep consistency. It's not going to look the same, but headings and things like that will be consistent across device, and that's really the goal with HTML. Certain types of formatting in Word, and some items are not supported by HTML and not really supported by web page authoring environment, which includes AEM. And some of those things are like bulleted and numbered lists don't translate. Table information sometimes can be weird. Text formatting, if you don't use like a heading format, like a heading 1 for your titles and things like that, and you just change the size of the font and bold it, that does not translate over. Also, if you use different fonts don't translate over either. All right, so right now we're going to take a look at some things, some of the things I talked about, and show you some examples. We're going to start here with, right here, this is actually a document that someone, Richmond County, donated and allowed me to share for here. there was some problem with copying and pasting this text into the rich text box. It worked for me now. I really don't know what was going on with it that day. However, when I had her copy and paste again through the paste from Word button, it worked. But right now, I'm just going to copy and paste it directly into a rich text box. The first thing you'll notice about this, when you click inside, you can see there's one font, and then the second part is a second font. We've got some bold here and nothing more. There's no special alignment, no bullets or numbers or anything. So I'm just going to copy this. And then I'm going to go over here to AEM, which I've already put in some rich text boxes here with the different ways that you can add text. And so we can look at the differences. And so right here, we're going to paste directly into the component. Sorry about that. The hotkeys are very different for a Mac, and so I'm sort of in between a Mac and a PC. And all right, so now you can see the font is the same. We've got a paragraph format. We've got the bold here. We've got the italic bold that was there, and it looks pretty good. And I'm going to go to the source code here, and you don't have to learn coding or anything. I just want to show you the differences between the different ways of pasting rich text in. This P is the format for paragraph, and you can see that it's open and closed, and that each one of these paragraphs has a paragraph, and the lines in between just go in there. Let me move the sidekick out of the way. And there's no extra coding in between. And it actually looks pretty good. So if I go to OK, it actually looks fine. So if you want to copy and paste directly into this window, it works fine with things that don't have a lot of formatting. One thing that you can do with different browsers, and since you're most likely going to be working in Mozilla Firefox, I'm going to move this up here. You can go to preview mode, and I'm going to go ahead and close this so I can see everything. If you hold Control-Shift-M, that's Control-Shift-M as in Melissa, it will show you what your page or what your website will look like on a mobile device. The sidekick is kind of still in the way there, but that's all the further I can get it out of the way. But this is what your website will look like on a much smaller screen. And so you can see that still looks pretty good. There are no weird breaks. There are no weird spaces going on. So that looks pretty good. In this mode also, right here along the top, you can click that drop-down menu, and you can choose specific phones and or you can choose laptops. I'm going to choose the iPhone 6 Plus because that's a pretty good size screen, so you can see the difference there between the other one that we had that was just a small screen. And this is a good way to, after you've pasted and formatted or pasted any rich text, or actually really done any work on your website, You can do this, and that's Control-Shift-M, and look at the different phones and just make sure it looks all right on the small screens. Now to get back out of that, you're going to do the same thing. Control-Shift-M will take you back to the full-size page, and then I'm going to open back up, go back into edit mode here. Mary Beth asked a question, does it matter which Microsoft Word you're using? Some of us have the newest versions while others have older versions. In our office, we have both, and the compatibility isn't always good. The newest version, of course, is always best because as technology and as we make updates with the AEM environment and everything, they also update and upgrade, and it's better. If you do have an older version of Microsoft Word and you try something like this and it doesn't look like, you're going to have to do it with this second mode of copying and pasting into rich text, and that is by using this paste from Word button. I have another document here. Let's see. So this is just a template, a plain old Word template, and I guess plain old is not a good word for this, because you can see there's a whole lot of formatting and things going on here. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste these last couple of paragraphs and sections. And now, because this is the newest version of Word, if I paste it right here and go here, there's some things that I can see. You can see that that's bolded. You can see that these, where the bullets were, it's not really formatted for bulleting, and that's one of the things that I was talking about that doesn't translate well. Now, if I'm going to select everything and delete that out. Now, when you use the paste from Word, all right, so when you use the paste from Word, cancel, let me do this again. Paste from Word, you're just going to click that after you've copied from Word, and you're going to paste directly into this window. And you can see that all of your text is there. And what this does is cleans up some of the old formatting and the weird code stuff that comes from Microsoft. So you can see that you have, I mean, it looks virtually the same. And if you look here under Source Edit, it looks the same. We have the spaces, we have the paragraphs for every single paragraph. So if you've got the newest version of Word, you can paste directly into here. But if you've got the older, you're going to absolutely have to do the paste from Word button. And then if we do OK and look at it, some things that you'll notice here. Here on the document, these little headings are let's see, where's the styles? Okay, so you can see that's a heading 1, and since that is an HTML tag, heading 1, it translated here as a heading 1 also. Now the problem with that is that the page title is a heading 1, and so right now is the name of the county. So this is competing with that, and it is not good form to have different sections on the page itself other than the title to be a heading 1. The other thing is you can see these look a little bit weird. Those bullets are very tiny, and there's that weird long space. And if we do Control-Shift-M, oh, I forgot to go into preview mode. So if we go into preview mode, move that out of the way, we'll close this up. And that reloaded in a weird way, so I'm just going to refresh first. And there we go. All right. So we go here, Control-Shift-M, pick a device. We'll just do that. And you can see, I mean, it looks okay, but there is still some weird spacing that looks weird, but it generally it looks all right on a mobile device. So we are going to have to go back in and edit some things. When I've done training with some of you or many of you, I always talk about this sidekick not opening up, and then I could never get it to do it. So here's a good example of how sometimes the sidekick, when you're back in edit mode, doesn't open up. And so I'm going to just pull it down here. And it also looks like, no, it looks fine. So you saw what I did. I just pulled that down and it opened back up. And then I just verified that it was in edit mode by clicking on that button. I'm going to open this back up. So because they don't, Word documents and HTML don't always, or not always, but don't really like each other, if you will, what you'll have to do is go through, once you've got the main information on your page, you'll have to go through and do some minor edits. So this right here, it doesn't have anything for format because it had 2 tags on the, and you can see that here. Oh, but it went away. So maybe that fixed it. So let's do this again. Let's see if it'll let me do it now. No, it still won't let me. So what I'm going to do, since it's not going to let me do the format, and I have to change the format because a word heading 1 doesn't work, I'm just going to copy and back it up and paste it in there where it says format. Now if you hold Control Shift V, so it's like a paste, except that you hold down the Shift key also. It's going to paste it with whatever format is here. And so you can see now that says paragraph. And I'm just going to highlight it and choose heading 2. So now that looks all right. Looks like the same thing is happening here. So I am just going to Control X, delete that out, backspace 1, Control Shift V, and you can see again it is paragraph format, and we want that to be a heading, so we're going to change that to heading 2. And you would do that with every single one of these headings.
Hey, Melissa, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to talk earlier. I think something's wrong with the mic on this headset. The reason that the H1 isn't showing up in that format is because H1, heading 1 is not an option.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason it's not an option is because of design. I mean, the title of the page is generally, not generally, is always your H1 level. Everything that's underneath should be H2 or 3 or 4 or however many heading levels you have. And so copying and pasting it, you don't see the format because it is an H1 and that's not an option. I see what you're saying now, Robbie. Yeah, and so going ahead and just cutting it out, pasting it back in under format, under the, whenever you see the paragraph format here, and then changing it to. The other thing here is that if you click here, you know, when you, we had this open, you can see that those are, it's a bulleted list format. It has a bulleted list format, and so it's indented. I think that's a little stylistic indent there because usually bullets are maybe indented a little bit further. But when we go here and we click in here, it's still a paragraph format. And here we do have the option to have a bulleted list. So I'm just gonna, well, I'm gonna highlight it all, those 2 bullets, and I'm gonna hit this bullet. And then I am just going to delete these spaces. And you would do the same thing down here with this much larger list. Just highlight everything. And click on the bulleted list and then delete all these spaces. And besides being able to see the spaces, if you go here to the source edit, you can see all of these ampersand, NSP, those are all spaces that that shouldn't be there. And so when we go back up to this one right here that I had done, that I've already changed, you can see LI, which means it's a list. That's an item in the list. and there are no spaces in between that bullet and the text. And so now you can see that's different. That looks a bit different. You see it's not competing with the sections here are not competing with the name of the page. And now your bulleted list looks a little bit more standardized, other than the fact that I did not take the spaces out of there right now. But so that looks a lot better. The other thing is right now that looks kind of okay, but in this original document, we've got some coloring because this is a table. Laying out different elements in a web page in a table is a no-no. It is not accessible at all. And so this little table, while it looks good here, does not translate well here. Basically, your image did not transport in because those have to be uploaded to your asset folder, if you'll remember. And then it's just kind of weird. So to deal with tables, in particular, this table is just for really just for looks, for design on the document that was created for your eyes. I'm going to X out of that, not X out of it, excuse me, Control X to cut it. And then I'm up here on top, the format is paragraph, and that's fine. So I'm going to paste that. Actually, the undo button here, or Control Z, and that was actually still in the table. So let me try this again, same thing. I really just want to get the text out of there. Okay, there we go. Now I got the text out of there. I ended up triple clicking on it, and it did not select any of the rest of the table. And now you can see that table is still there. You can see it visually here, and you can also see it here in the code. This here table width. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on that empty table and remove table. So let me go ahead and clean this up real quick again so we can look at it. Look at it in the mobile mode again. And so in addition to like just general cleanup and stuff, you might have to remove some of the spaces in between some things. So I'm going to tighten this up real quick. All right, that looks pretty consistent. We have H2, heading 2 formats for all of the little headings. The lists now are all bulleted lists. And you can see that there. And we're going to say OK. And now just even here in within AEM, you can see a huge difference in how that looks. It looks nicer, it looks cleaner. It doesn't look like I just copied it and pasted it out of Word. So anytime you're working with rich text and copying and pasting from Word, you're going to have to do a little bit of work, but in the end, it really pays off because it looks very nice. I'm going to go here into preview mode. When you're trying to preview what the mobile screens will look like, move the sidekick up here in the upper right hand corner. Otherwise it kind of throws it in the middle and it's weird. And also close this because it's trying to see that as well. And so we get a pretty decent look at the page if we kind of keep everything out of the way. So Control-Shift-M. And that looks much nicer than it did before. And it lines up well. Let's look at it like an iPhone. It still looks nice on that screen as well. And then we will try a Samsung Galaxy, not the Note, Galaxy S7. Looks pretty much the same. Let's see, I have a Kindle, so let's try the Kindle because that's a little bit bigger. And here's the, it's not letting me move the sidekick out of the way. But here's what it looks like on a Kindle and the 8.9. So that screen's a bit bigger. And it's big enough that it is not collapsing this menu into the little drop-down thing. So let's see, let's try the iPad mini. So that's a little bit smaller. So there we go. So that's small enough. It's bigger, but it's small enough that you still have your navigation here in this little drop-down. And so let's see what it looks like here. And I think that looks pretty good. Control-Shift-M to go back. And now I can move the sidekick and open everything back up. Then the last way that you can and it looks like my page is frozen. So this may happen to you also when you're doing this kind of thing. After I come back out of the mobile preview mode, and I've had this happen already several times when I was working with these different components. It's frozen, nothing's working. I mean, like I cannot scroll on the page any, so I'm going to refresh the page and it'll just cause everything else to reload. So now we've got our scroll bar, but my sidekick again is closed up, although it's open and in edit mode. So I'm just going to click here, pull it down and open it back up. Now the other way to paste text in is this paste as text, and that's paste as plain text, which means it's going to remove all of the formatting. And so the same thing, you're just going to open that up and paste directly into the, I've actually got to go get the text again out of this document. And we're going to paste as text. Say OK. And just at a glance, you can see that although there are the bullets there, it is not just like pasting from Word, there is no bullet formatting. And you can just see by looking at it that all of the heading 1 tags that were in there are gone. So you'll have to do the same thing as you would do if you pasted from Word, and that is just go back through and format. Now, when you do the first thing, we want that to be a heading 2, and I change that. You notice that the entire first paragraph or first part also does heading 2, and we don't want that. So again, if that happens, we're just gonna cut that out, hit enter, go back up 1 space, Control V, and now you can see there's more space in between here. What's happening is when you paste as text and it's stripping all of the formatting, it's pretty much stripping everything. And if you go here into the code mode, you see these BRs, those are breaks. And so what that does is keeps everything that has a BR after it together. And what that looks like in text is that there are no spaces in between. So you won't find your first space until you scroll the whole way down here, because you see that closing tag down here at list any assumptions. So that's the first place, other than the one I just put here. That's the first place that you see any space in between. So that means that there are breaks in all of these lines rather than these things being broken down into paragraphs. So if you paste as text and you're going to have to edit it anyway, but one of the things that you are going to have to do is go back here, and you can, so see, those are all listed as paragraphs, but there's a break here rather than a paragraph. So we're just going to go to the beginning of that line and hit enter, and there's a space. And then it looks like that's a paragraph, so that's the end. So we're going to go to this word, backspace enter, backspace enter. And we're even going to do that with the bullets. And I'm going to leave the bullets on there because when I go back to actually put the bullet format, I want to be able to easily see where they are. And that was all right. And so we're going to all right, now I'll just go back in and highlight and do my headings. And then I'm going to go ahead and highlight those. And make real bullets. And it doesn't take long. Oh, actually there is a break there. So I'm going to undo what I did, since that did that, and then I'm going to go. And so if you, one way that you can, not one way, but the way that you will most likely know right away that there are breaks rather than new paragraphs is that when you do something like that, you click on one word that's above another, and there was a space in between there, but that was a space that was included in with a break in here apparently, is that when you try to change the format of one word, it'll change everything that's included in that break. So just do the same thing, backspace, and then enter again, and you'll see the right amount of space in between. And then when you go back to do your change, your heading or whatever, it will just change the words that you've selected. And when we're done, we'll say, okay, so this is pasted as text, and I went back and made the changes, and you can see that that looks pretty much exactly like the other. The only thing, the big difference in the editing part of it was that you had to go back in and create these paragraphs by backspacing and then entering. And the other thing with pasting as text was that the table, it also removed all of the table format. So it just put the text right in here. And if you have a table with multiple columns, I'm not sure what that would do. I'm not sure how that would look, but I'm sure that, you know, that's something that you'll have to play with. Having tables with actual information is not as, it's acceptable. It's when you're laying out and trying to put images next to text. And that's an old way, way back when people started designing web pages in a more graphical way, because at first it was just all coding. It was all, I mean, it was just all this, and it was done that way. And then we started having these like WYSIWYG editors, and so the ways that they used to put text and images and things and backgrounds and all that together was that they used tables. Well, that is not acceptable for accessibility, because images don't have proper alt text, and they don't know order, and things just really get jumbled and weird when you're trying to do layout with a table. So that's why we kind of avoid tables. All right, So the last thing that I want to talk about here is I have another. So what I've done here is I made a flyer in Canva. I did not make a flyer in Canva. I downloaded a flyer from Canva that already had the information on it. So, and then I put it inside this document that's got a little bit of different formatting here. We have a title that is not a headline or a heading. All it is 24 bold. And then
Can you interpret what all that says?
yeah, you can. Y'all can read. All the people that I've trained before can read this stuff,
Oh,
right?
okay.
They know I don't know how to type, so I use Greeking. Yes, I've got dummy text here. And some of it is just plain old text. We got a little bit of a bold. We have a numbered list. We have some italics that actually has a tab. And then we have another regular paragraph. But so that's, if we go here to view and let's see, where do you turn off the, does anybody know where you turn off the squigglies? Or we could just go to web layout. I think that might turn off the squigglies. No, it won't.
It might be under review.
Under what?
Review.
Why am I not seeing it?
Right beside view at the top.
Review?
Oh. Well, that'll work. But
yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's what the page would look like if it was a printed page.
Mary Beth says review and then spell check.
Oh, review then spell check. Okay. And we're going to go back to edit doc. Review and is that it? Ignore all. Huh. Oh well. Anyway, you get the idea. That's what the oh, you know what? I could probably do print preview. Yep, there's my print preview. So on a piece of paper, that's what that would look like. So we're going to go ahead and go back here. I'm going to select everything, Control A, Control C. I use hotkeys a lot, so. And then we're going to go here and I'm going to go ahead and paste from Word. Whoops. And we'll say okay. And now I don't know if you noticed that or not, but let's do this again. When you paste from Word, one thing that you can see is that you can see right there's where my image is. And you can see, although the font has changed in this little box, you can see I still have a numbered list. I still have the tab there, the indent, and then I have a regular paragraph. When you go OK, all of that is cleaned up. So all of that is gone. this tab is gone and the numbered list is gone. So real quickly, because I still, I got 8 minutes. I still want to talk a little bit about it, accessibility. Go ahead and I'm going to turn that bold. I'm going to turn that bold off, and then I'm going to click heading 2. Not a numbered list, but I want it to be, so I'm going to click that, and then just now the tabs in the word processor would be this indent here. It's not exactly the same, but it does indent so that it looks similar to the Word document. Now for the that's sort of separate from this accessibility. I'm going to just jump straight to that. So if you've got a flyer, I know sometimes people just put the flyer directly into a page using the image. And I've already saved the JPEG. Let's say okay. Oh, forgot to. Link to da 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 da. And so a lot of these are on some of the websites. And yes, this is from Canva, and I know you can do this in Canva. The only problem with this image right here is that it is not accessible. So anybody who has an impairment is not going to be able to get the details of the art show from the web page. So one of the ways that you can and should still continue to use your flyers because they look really good is to, I'm going to use a column control. I'm going to do 2 columns 50-50, that's fine. And I'm going to put that there, and then I will use a rich text box. And hopefully you would have all of this information pretty much word for word. Art Showcase 2018, entrance fee, snacks, all of that information, and type that here. And you can use some formatting with some bolds and stuff like that. And let's see, I am actually just going to, should have really copied and pasted something like that. But I'm just going to copy and paste some more of that crazy. If I can create another tab here. Greeking. So if y'all ever need just dummy text to fill space, and you Google Greeking, here's this right here, lipsum.com, and it has a generator, and you can tell it how many paragraphs you want. I'll just say 3 because, and then you just copy and paste from here. And we'll go back here, and I'm going to paste as text because I want to be able to do my formatting, which I'm not going to do right now. So now this is what this looks like. And then over here, if you're still using a PDF and you want people to be able to look at the flyer other than just on here, you can do a rich text. And do download the flyer. Here, and just create a button, and then I have already uploaded the PDF. There we go, and it looks blank, but it is not really. And say okay, and there we go. And then we have a nice accessible using rich text that contains all of the information that's on this picture, which still looks good. And then the button that gives your users the opportunity to download. And if we go to preview, and I'm going to close this up, and then we'll see how it looks on the cell phone. Now the thing about the columns is that it stacks things left to right. So this would be all of the information about that event, and then we have the photo and the opportunity to download the flyer. You can do it the opposite way if you want, just as long as you have that opportunity to download the flyer and that you have the information in a rich text box that is accessible by everyone. It's 3:00, 3:00. Does anyone have any questions or comments or anything exciting going on? If you've got nothing, you're all dismissed. And we'll see you next month. August 8th is the next one, I believe. You're welcome. I'm going to hang out here for a minute, so if anybody has any questions and you want to hang back, we'll be here for a few minutes.